Drew here, and I just have to say, I'm back. This week's episode of Succession, I really enjoyed it. I can't really say that it's a return to form. I wasn't able to review the last 2 weeks' episodes, but I was kind of underwhelmed by them, so I was kind of glad to not have to because I didn't find myself having that much to say about them. But this episode, it was a little bit anticlimactic. The resolution of this bear hug that's been going all the way back to season 1, but I think it really sets things up to be the Kendall versus the rest of the Roy family showdown from here on forward. And Sandy and his daughter, played by Hope Davis, are hopefully going to have still a pretty large role, because now they're going to have board seats, and of course that's going to create conflict, and it's also going to put them against Team Kendall. So all in all, even though I did find that I thought that this plot line would be resolved in a more climactic fashion, I feel like at some point this was going to have to resolve. It's been looming over the characters for so long, and they couldn't just keep delaying it indefinitely. Although, with this show, I had started to feel like, oh, maybe they can keep delaying it indefinitely because it had been so long. But this episode, like I said, I feel that this season has felt a little off to me, mainly in the characterizations. I think that in previous seasons there was a very taut, deliberate development of the plot, and this season I feel that the plot has been a little bit more scattered, like things will not really get built up to, and all of a sudden it's happening, and it feels like a lot of plot elements, like the inclusion of Adrian Brody's Josh, just came out of nowhere, like, oh, okay, this guy is important, but we didn't even know he existed until this week. But this episode for me was really saved by the surprising development that Logan didn't take his urinary tract infection medication and he's gone loopy. And I think that this was one of the more humorous, satirical moments of the season so far, that nobody seemed to realize that he was crazy. And watching everyone flounder and jockey trying to figure out how to do what Logan wants, particularly Roman, who's just like, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. It's kind of a humorous commentary in a lot of ways, because you've got the fact that it took them so long to figure out that anything was wrong with Logan, but also you've got the fact that so much of this company's profitability, so many people that depend on this company could be completely thrown, to the winds by the craziness of an old man who apparently his normal modus operandi is so indistinguishable from someone who needs to be on medication that nobody even noticed for a good long while. There were some really, really humorous moments this episode. Besides that, I thought that the moment where Roman ended up on the phone with the president was quite a strong moment. I found this moment pretty hilarious, and I think Roman, with his inability to filter himself, was the perfect person to put in this conversation. I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't have him cause something terrible to happen during the course of the conversation, because it basically seemed like the president had already made up his mind not to run again before Roman got on the call. So nothing that Roman said was really going to dissuade him from this decision. So it wasn't like Roman could really mess anything up. I would have rather, had this be the result of something Roman said, or at least had it implied that maybe, this wouldn't have gone this way if it hadn't been Roman on the call. But, Roman didn't really mess up that badly, and it just seems like the president's decision had a lot to do with the harassment he's received from the media, including Logan. So this decision was going to happen either way. Other thoughts on this episode, I feel Kendall seemed uncharacteristically competent to me for the most part. I felt that the way that he managed to negotiate with Stewie to get them to actually come to a deal with the Roy family didn't really seem like the Kendall that we've been getting a lot of this season. He's been pretty weak, and I feel that it's interesting because the way that they're setting things up as him versus the rest of the family, you feel that they are asking us to root for him a little bit. And if that's the case, then they really need to have him have a moment where he stops being delusional about the fact that he's a white knight and come to have some personal responsibility for what the Roy family has done and realize his part in that. I also feel the moment where he came up to speak in front of the audience, that was so cringe. Basically talking about having a moment of silence for all the people that the Roy family has wronged as part of the cruise line, but not really acknowledging, oh wait, yeah, I'm a part of that kind of a little bit. So his lack of self-awareness is becoming a problem, and I hope he has this moment over the course of the season where he realizes what he's been a part of a little bit more and realizes how people actually see him and comes to have a little bit more acceptance of that. Otherwise, Greg, of course, finding out that Kendall might be about to burn him, realizing, oh wait, maybe I have to go back to my grandfather again to get that legal defense, and then considering suing his grandfather in love so his grandfather doesn't leave everything to Greenpeace. Greg continues to be a comic goldmine and one of the more consistent characters in this show, I feel. I was a little frustrated with Shiv this episode. I've always enjoyed this character. I think that Sarah Snook is wonderful. She's doing a great job, but the writing has been wildly inconsistent. In this episode, I felt that they were leaning too hard on the girl power. Oh, hey, Hope Davis's character, you're tired of being ignored by your dad too, aren't you? Hey, maybe if I get you a board seat and I get a board seat and we'll all be chummy together. Now, obviously, this being Succession, I don't think that this is going to go down in the, let's say, they're not going to be friends and allies and just, bond over girl power for long. But still, I feel like the fact that this scene went down the way it did felt kind of forced, and I would have rather seen Shiv make plays based just on individuals rather than kind of leaning on her gender and Hope Davis's gender to get this done. But again, didn't make Logan very happy with this move, and I think it's pretty telling that Shiv is really, really starting to question him about, okay, you always act like you would have done things better or differently, as he strongly implies at the end of this episode. But what would you actually have done? Because, a lot of the time, it's just whatever he does is the best. It's pretty obvious that he just views his solutions as the right solutions and doesn't believe that anybody else has anything to offer. Otherwise, I feel that Connor has been kind of not used in the best way this season. I feel like he doesn't seem like the Connor of previous seasons. I think he might need Willow to bounce off of, but I've always felt he brought a refreshing energy as this character who was so non-threatening, and all of a sudden he's blackmailing the family and being threatening, and I just feel like it feels out of character for him, and I kind of miss the old Connor because I feel like there's already enough Roys manipulating and wheeling and dealing to try and get their way. I don't think we necessarily needed him to join in on that. I feel like he was better used as kind of the comic character that kind of just brings a welcome relief and throws everybody else's actions into contrast. So those are my thoughts on this episode for what they are worth. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're interested in seeing my upcoming reviews of Succession and other shows, please consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, thank you for watching.